A princess lived in a luxurious castle. She was only 14 years old, but she was terribly spoiled and moody. Once she came up with something for April to come, and there were spring flowers at the New Year's banquet. She issued a decree in which she announced the beginning of spring and promised to generously reward the one who brings snowdrops to the palace. In a small house on the outskirts of the city lived a stepmother with her daughter and stepdaughter. The stepdaughter was a very sweet and kind girl, and her name was Masha. The stepmother and daughter were very lazy and angry, and they hurt the poor girl in every possible way. They really wanted to receive the reward promised by the princess, but they could not think of where to get the snowdrops in winter. The old woman decided to send Masha to the forest to bring them spring flowers. The stepdaughter began to beg her stepmother to take pity on her, because it was dark and cold outside. And what kind of snowdrops can there be in winter? But the greedy old woman did not want to hear anything. She gave a larger basket and drove Masha out the door. The frozen girl was very scared in a dark forest. Suddenly, in the distance, she saw a light. She was delighted and went to meet him. It turned out that it was a large blazing fire, and 12 people were warming themselves around it. Plucking up her courage, the girl approached them and told them that the evil stepmother made her go into the forest and collect snowdrops. It turned out that it was 12 months. The brothers felt sorry for Masha, and they decided to help her. Brother April chanted a spell, and suddenly spring came in the forest and in the clearing. The snow melted, green grass appeared, snowdrops blossomed. The girl began to collect flowers and soon filled a large basket with them. Young April liked her very much, and he gave her a magic ring. If trouble happens, he must be thrown to the ground, a spell cast, and all 12 months will come to the rescue. Masha thanked them and went home. When the girl brought the snowdrops home, the stepmother and daughter were very surprised at this. Masha was very tired from the journey and immediately fell asleep soundly. Her half-sister suspected something was wrong. While the girl was sleeping, she found her magic ring and took it to herself. After waking up, the stepdaughter discovered the loss. She began to beg to return the ring, but her stepmother and daughter did not want to hear anything. Taking a basket of snowdrops, they hurried to the royal palace. In the palace there was a magnificently decorated New Year tree. But the upcoming celebration did not please the capricious princess at all. And only when the stepmother and daughter brought her a whole basket of snowdrops, the princess changed her anger to mercy. The stepmother could not clearly answer where the flowers came from, and she had to admit that her stepdaughter had collected them. The princess immediately decided to go to the meadow with snowdrops. On the way, she looked to poor Masha, so that she would show her the place where she picked flowers. The girl said she would show it, but only if the ring was returned to her. From such insolence, the princess was angry and threw away the ring. But the stepdaughter managed to cast a spell. Immediately a strong wind rose, thunder rumbled, foliage fell, and snow began to fall. Old Man January appeared before them. He invited everyone to make one wish. Out of fear, the princess wished to be in the palace as soon as possible. Masha made a wish that everything would return to its place in due time, winter in winter, summer in summer. The stepmother and her daughter were so frozen that they wanted fur coats from any fur, even from a dog. Saying this, the greedy women immediately turned into dogs. They were harnessed to a sleigh on which the princess was to get to the palace. Masha thanked the brothers for their help. They promised to turn the stepmother and her daughter back into humans, but only when they become obedient. Months gave the girl a wonderful big sled, harnessed by frisky horses. Seeing them, the princess asked for a ride to the palace. It was the first time in her life that the princess had uttered the word please. And Masha gladly agreed. Lemuel Gulliver was born into the family of a poor English landowner. The boy was the third of 5 sons. At the age of 14, he became an apprentice to a famous London doctor, and then got a job as a surgeon on a ship.
Cool.
For 6 years Gulliver traveled to different countries, observed the customs of the natives, and even studied their language. And so Gulliver set off on another voyage on the ship Antelope. But did not have time to pass even halfway, as the ship fell into a terrible storm. The storm hit the ship against the rocks, and the sailors jumped overboard in horror. And only Gulliver managed to get into the boat. He was carried for hours on the waves, and soon by a miracle the boat washed ashore. But Gulliver was so exhausted by the storm that as soon as he stepped on the ground, he immediately fell asleep on the nearby lawn. The rays of the first sun awakened Gulliver. He tried to get up, but realized that he could not move. His arms, legs, and even his hair were tied to the ground with a net of small ropes. Suddenly something tickled Gulliver's chest. He raised his head and saw a little man the size of a finger. It was the king of the Lilliputians. He gave the order, and then thousands of small arrows, like needles, began to stab Gulliver's body. The prisoner immediately realized that it was better to submit. He showed by signs that he was hungry and thirsty. Then, by order of the king, food was brought to him. More than 100 natives climbed the stairs to Gulliver's mouth, pouring baskets of fruit, bread, and meat on him. When Gulliver ate everything, he was taken to the capital on a specially made platform. The prisoner was placed in a huge temple, chained to his left leg with many miniature chains. It was the largest room in the entire country, but even into it the giant had to walk on all fours. At a meeting of the Lilliputians, the king ordered to provide Gulliver with a staff of 600 servants. They sewed a suit for the prisoner and even a bedding for miniature mattresses. And over time, the king was convinced that the giant is kind and therefore released him. Gulliver traveled a lot around the country, studied the customs and language of the Lilliputians, and even participated in their holidays and parades. Once, while communicating with the king, Gulliver learned that Lilliputia was at war with the empire of Blefuscu, located on a neighboring island. The reason for the contention was that the Lilliputians could not agree with the Blefuscans on how to properly break the eggs. The Lilliputians split them from the sharp end, and the Blefuscans from the blunt. And now rumors reached the king of Lilliput that the enemy had prepared a fleet and was about to attack. Then the emperor asked for help from Gulliver, and he willingly agreed. And so, under cover of night, Gulliver took long ropes and swam to the enemy ships. He tied a rope to each ship and dragged them to the shores of Lilliput. The guards, who were the only ones on the ship, jumped into the sea and started swimming away from the giant. So Gulliver completely disarmed the opponents and received the most honorable title in the kingdom for this. For this, the courtiers disliked Gulliver. They began to weave intrigues against him, and soon the king himself accused the giant of high treason. Rumors spread throughout the kingdom. And Gulliver learned that at the Privy Council, it was decided to execute him.
Oh no!
Therefore, that very night, Gulliver made his way to the shore, where he left his broken boat. Having quickly repaired the boat, the giant left the country of the Lilliputians in a hurry, taking with him 6 small live cows, 2 bulls, and the same number of sheep and rams. Gulliver sailed on the ocean for a long time until he noticed an English ship.
Yes!
On it, he safely got home. But, as it turned out, this was just the beginning of Gulliver's adventures.